2-0 Chargers hosting the 1-1 Broncos. A lot of people foolishly think this division is wide open because the Chiefs are 0-2. They're obviously wrong, but we're going to have the discussion anyway. Brew, who is Sunday more important to, Denver or LA?
Definitely Denver. Definitely Denver. I get you'll probably say, wow, 3-0 in the division if the Chargers win. Huge lead over the Chiefs. But Denver was supposed to be a contender as well, and they haven't looked good. Obviously, they're 1-1, but they haven't played well. You win this game, now you're tied for the top of the division. You're feeling better about yourself. For them to win, I assume Bo Nix will play well. He has not been good. Everything is pretty much down for him. So if he plays well and they win a game, they haven't played the best teams in the league yet, but you beat the Chargers, who have looked great so far.
Looked great.
I think the morale improves, and now Denver is feeling much better about itself.
Yeah, I think objectively the team that's 1-1, it's bigger for them than the team that's 2-0. But I didn't view the Broncos as a playoff team before the year, and I did view the Chargers as a Tier 1 AFC contender. And we just talk about the Bills like, well, they're going to get the 1 seed. The Chargers' schedule is pretty easy. Like, if we want to talk about the Chargers, if you see them like I see them, you win this game, it's a minimum 3-game lead on the Chiefs, no matter what happens Sunday night when you factor in the tiebreakers. If they lose to the Giants, it could be effectively a 4-game lead with the tiebreakers. 1 seed, MVP for Herbert, like all of that stuff, the conversation continues if they win the game. So I just think that they're playing in like a deeper end of the conversation pool with the NFL if they win the game.
Yeah, this would be great for the Chargers, especially after the way Denver lost last week. Yeah, that demoralizing loss that really shouldn't have been a loss. And then for the Chargers to be able to come back out, beat them, put them in a hole. And I'm not sure exactly what the stats are, but teams that have gone 3-0 in division games, start off 3-0 in division games, have a pretty substantial chance of winning the division moving forward. So
we did it on Pack Stats the other day.
Oh, wow.
Well, there have been 11 of them in the modern era. Not all of them win the division. Like,
5 went to the Super Bowl.
But 5 of the 11 have gone to the Super Bowl.
Teams that started their season
3-0
all in the division. Okay, not just started 3-0 in the division, but the first 3 weeks.
Start the season 3-0,
that's
3
what it
division
is.
wins.
5 out of the 11 went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, an average 12
That's
wins.
huge.
So no, that's I didn't know that. That's why Pack Stats.
Pack Stats.
Such a,
Pack Stats.
that's why it can overcome its
I'm glad you
terrible
pulled
name.
it out of me.
I got it. Case closed. Whatever you want to call it.
So here's the deal. The Chargers, I think, are here to stay this year. You know what I mean? Barring, a chargering or, honestly, only barring something happening to Herbert. You know what I mean? They're going to be in the mix, even if they lose this game. The Broncos, I'm not going to say their season's on the line. What I am going to say is we came into this year, not on this show, but in literally every other corner, the Broncos hype train was in overdrive, and it was driven by Sean Payton, who made it clear he thought, and we can throw up the quote, that this Broncos team was better than most of the Drew Brees Saints teams. The short-term goal is winning the division. This is a team capable of winning the Super Bowl. I've coached 6 teams I thought could win the Super Bowl. Coached Saints 15 years. Some win championship games, some win playoffs. This is my 7th team that I think has that. That's the table he set for his team and his quarterback, and here is how Bo Nix has responded thus far this year. He's been bad. Now, it's weird because he was really bad throughout week 1, but they won. He was really good for most of week 2, but then made one terrible pass in the 4th quarter and they lost. So it's kind of, the wins and losses have not correlated with how he's played, but in the aggregate, he has not played well. And I just think if you lose to the Colts, if you get beat by the Chargers, you feel like we escaped against the Titans because of Brian Callahan's miscues, that it can all of a sudden feel like, where's our season going? Assuming like the Chiefs win Sunday night, it's like, wait, we're in last place in the AFC West. So I think the Broncos have to win. I think the Chargers would love to win, but we're not going to freak out if they don't. Talking Josh Allen. Threw for 3 touchdowns last night, which means he officially passed Mahomes as the fastest player to score 300 touchdowns. He has done it in 127 games. Patrick took 128 games. Now, I know what you're asking. Are they including in that 300 that Fugazi receiving touchdown, when he threw the ball, someone else caught it and they lateraled it to him, a play where he somehow got credit for 2 touchdowns? The answer to that question is yes. With that said,
was
is
asking
record
that.
to the record.
Yeah.
Brew. How close is the gap? And I'm going to Brew first here because I know Brew is going to lean on his decades of covering sports and logical reasoning to give this a real answer, not a shock jock answer like you other 2 jackals might. How close is the gap between Allen and Mahomes?
It's not close at all.
Thank you, Brew.
It is not close at all because obviously we all know Mahomes has the 3 Super Bowls, the 2 MVPs, 3 Super Bowl MVPs, and is firmly in the GOAT conversation. That already, as great as Josh Allen is, he's on a Hall of Fame trajectory. He may never do all that. That already is enough to put him ahead of Josh.
Well, it's overwhelmingly likely he doesn't.
Doesn't win 3 Super Bowls.
5 Super Bowls.
Maybe he gets another couple MVPs.
3,
But the Super Bowl is not likely. So historically, not close. And currently, not close in the other direction, though. I mean, like the last 2, obviously Josh Allen was better last year. Not close. And this year, so far, he has been better. Here's the graphic from dating back to last year. This is just who's playing better currently. This is the last season and this season. I mean, touchdowns, he's got what? Is that 16 more touchdowns? Obviously fewer turnovers. Everything is better. Completion percentage, Mahomes has him, but passer rating well ahead of him. And Josh is not, we talk about Mahomes' lack of weapons. It's not like Josh has, Stephon Diggs still, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir. Like, he doesn't have these great weapons either, and yet he's been playing. So historically, Mahomes obviously the guy, but recently and currently, Josh is playing better. It's not even close.
Ask you a question before you guys go? Would you have, because I would have found it ridiculous if in 2019 someone had said, last year, James Harden was better than Steph Curry. So I give the context, 2018 was when Harden won MVP, and then in the playoffs, for the 4th time, Steph Curry played Harden, and they beat him. And then Steph went on that year to win the championship. You know what I mean? At that point, Steph had 3 championships. Harden had 0. Harden, the MVPs were 2-1 Steph, but Harden had been better lately.
If
for
Steph
you to
were
say the last
averaging like 13 points a game, that's the equivalent of what Mahomes is doing with the 91 passer rating or whatever. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Steph was still averaging 24 points a game.
But the question I'm asking is because you just said kind of just as an aside, obviously Josh was better last year. And my question is, how much of that is erased by the playoff game where obviously Patrick was better?
Josh was the MVP.
Yeah, no,
I am taking regular season play into consideration. Obviously, Mahomes was great in that game. They both played well. Mahomes outplayed him close. But I'm looking more at regular season. And Josh has just been better. And again, to your Steph Curry thing, it's not like Mahomes is still putting up these great numbers. So
the gap, there's the Mahomes-Brady gap, and where Brady's clearly better than Mahomes, but that's being closed by Mahomes. So over time, he's getting closer to that, but that exists, and now you've got the same gap with Josh and Mahomes historically, where it's hard to compare the two because of everything, all the great things that Patrick has done. And what's so interesting to me about Josh is in the 4-year period before last year, he was the first guy since Brett Favre to lead the NFL in turnovers and touchdowns. Yeah. First time first time's happened since Brett. And what's impressed me about him is how dramatically he changed that last year and how that's carrying over to this year. So he is progressing as a player, where you could make an argument that Patrick, at least in the regular season, has regressed significantly as a player. Now, in the biggest moments where you want that player to be your guy, it's no comparison. And until Josh can perform in one of those big moments, and ideally in a big moment over Patrick, you can't really have the discussion.
So You and I have talked sports for nearly 20 years together.
Yeah.
We do similar sleight of hand things. Like the Steph Curry, James Harden parallel doesn't work as well for me here because, and this isn't a shock jock take, I think objectively, Josh Allen is right there with Mahomes as a football player. Obviously, the accomplishments of Patrick Mahomes, it's a marathon-like distance between the two, just like it was for Brady and every one of his peers.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that in the era of Tom Brady, when Aaron Rodgers had his 45 touchdowns, 6 interception season, which is arguably the greatest individual season I've ever seen, that in that moment, Aaron Rodgers was better. And you could just do last year. The last 5 years, because the question is, how is the gap between the two players? Since 2020, this is a 1A and 1B situation of quarterbacks. How does it get closer? Because I'll remove the rushing touchdowns, where Josh Allen smokes Mahomes, obviously. The passing yards, virtually identical. Touchdowns, one off. Wins, one off. Playoff wins, obviously in Mahomes' category, but they're first and second in each. Josh Allen is
clearly the second best player.
Correct. And the gap of the talent between the two is not that significant. Obviously, Mahomes has had his number in the postseason. No one can dispute that. He's got the better trophy case. But as a football player, Allen's a close second. He's a close second.
Well, so listen, here's my problem with calling Allen a close second, is you believe Mahomes is the most talented player ever. And you're saying, right?
Yeah, and I believe that Josh Allen is
So you think
really
Josh Allen is very close to being the most talented football player of all time? Well, then, so this is where at some point the compliments to me become an insult, an unintentional one, which is we cannot say, we will take the last 2 years as the example, that Patrick has had the better team. He's never in their career, in their runs, had the better defense. But he certainly the last 2 years hasn't had. 2 years ago he had the better defense. That's the only one. But
when they won
when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl,
yeah.
correct. But we don't think that Patrick had the better situation the last 2 seasons than Josh, right? Like that's not the argument. The argument is that
I think his defense is. I mean, in the playoffs, certainly the Chiefs' defense is better than the Bills.
Well, hold on.
And a big part of your argument is the play. There's no regular season argument.
No, but I guess my point is the Bills' defense gets exposed in the playoffs by Mahomes. Like it's not like it's, and so this is where I get frustrated because we're not obviously the only show doing this topic. I saw Greeny this morning call him some variation of the best player he's ever seen. Colin today said he's the perfect quarterback. And if those are the things, and you are not playing with one arm tied behind your back from an institutional perspective, then at some point the accomplishments have to match it, or it's a personal failing, like we say with James Harden. I don't think it's a personal failing with Josh Allen. I just don't think the gap is as narrow as you guys say. And here's why the
Josh
playoff
has been
stuff.
excellent in the playoffs.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So let's talk about that.
He's never had a guy like Kelsey either.
No doubt. I mean, honestly, other than Tom Brady, nobody has.
But I mean, even close.
I do think it is worth noting that in the playoffs, Josh Allen has beaten. You said he had 7 wins. They have beaten in the wild card round Colts Phillip Rivers, Mac Jones, Skylar Thompson, Mason Rudolph, and rookie Bo Nix. That's 5 of them. And then he has 2 divisional wins over Lamar, one of which was 17-3, where a Lamar pick 6 was the defining moment of the game where Josh didn't play that well. When Josh has played someone in his weight class in the playoffs, young Deshaun Watson, Joe Burrow, and Patrick Mahomes, he's lost them all. The only guy in his weight class he's beaten is Lamar last year.
But he's also been excellent in some of those losses.
Because
wins are not just a quarterback stat. He has been excellent in some of those losses.
Wins are not just a quarterback stat, but if we are going to elevate a quarterback to, he is one of, what you're saying is this close to being the most talented quarterback ever. We're saying the gap between he and a guy who you believe has GOAT potential is small. Then at some point, you have to put pelts on the wall.
But aren't there a lot of guys who are more talented than Tom Brady? And maybe that hits your ears. Like, there's probably 20 of them. maybe 50 of them.
Yeah,
but he's more accomplished. It's not the same conversation.
And it's more than just talent at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I'm not as enamored with talent at that spot. I'm far more enamored with talent at wide receiver or 100-meter dasher than I am quarterback.
And I think when you look at Patrick at his best, it's not even close. But as sort of the trajectory's gone on, Patrick has had a drop off, and Josh has increased or has significantly improved, and that's kind of where we are right now. But you're never going to be able to make the argument of he's in Patrick's weight class until he does put some pelts on the board.
And the playoffs you can't argue.
Of course.
Well, but it's and then we can move on. This is why this is like a vexing conversation for me. Is we are trying to simultaneously say that these two players are super close. And then we have the biggest sample of any two guys in the history of the league playing each other in the biggest spots. And one guy has never outplayed him and never won. And in the last 2 years, it's when the Chiefs were vulnerable or bad or injured and on the road for one of them. And in both of those spots, Josh has had the ball in his hands with a chance to keep Mahomes on the bench, not a 13-second situation, go and win the game, and he didn't. And it takes 3 games in September for us to wipe all that away. And that, to me, is...
I think there's no argument for the postseason. Mahomes has outdueled him. Situationally, Mahomes is better, like all of that. But I also don't think you can just dismiss the regular season when it's not been close. It'd be one thing if Patrick was still playing great individually.
Are we talking about the gap right now? We're not talking about the gap,
historically,
the complete body of work. I thought we were talking about the gap of who
the
the
gap
players
right now
are
has
right
to be
now.
close.
And what I will say, and then we'll move on, is the gap to me right now was exhibited 5 games ago, and that gap is at the moment insurmountable. That has always everybody I think always thought, at least early, maybe not late, but in the 20-aughts, that Peyton Manning was more talented than Tom Brady. He was the better prospect. He had the better numbers. He didn't have the dominant defense, all of it. But Peyton had to have that 2006 AFC Championship game comeback before people were allowed to say Peyton Manning is better than Tom Brady.
Really? Because early on, I mean, there were questions still about Brady's individual greatness. I mean, he had the 3 Super Bowls, but those were defensive driven. His numbers in some of them weren't phenomenal. Like at that point, I don't think it was like, oh, Brady's by far the best quarterback in the league.
And to me, Brady's a great example of a guy who continued to grow and develop as a quarterback. Yes. And it looks like Josh Allen is continuing to grow and develop as a quarterback. Whether or not this lack of controlling the turnover is sustainable, we'll have to see. But at least he's done it for a year plus a little bit this season.
And as much as this conversation offends you, you still think Josh is second?
Yeah, no, I still think Josh is second, but I also think that until proven otherwise, we are in a Tiger versus the field situation. And what Josh is doing in the regular season is winning the Memorial. And we are talking about a guy with 10 majors and saying is a guy who has 0 actually as good as him. And I just reject that out of hand. Like,
but I would argue that the difference between winning a regular golf tournament and a major is wider. Like I don't think we dismiss the regular season like we do winning.
No, but again, you regularly use, and it's just reasonable people can disagree. Mahomes' last 2 seasons as if an NBA superstar is averaging 13 points a game. I view last season as there was one player in the NFL that could have had the Chiefs as the 1 seed. And it was that quarterback. And the year before, there was one player in the NFL that could have kept that offense afloat, and it was that quarterback. And then when he confirms that by his postseason performances, to me, like
it feels a little like Jimmy Butler, who's okay in the regular season, and then playoffs
if
he's
Jimmy,
great.
right? If Jimmy
but we
Butler
don't
were
rate
a
him as good as a lot of other players.
Agreed, but if Jimmy Butler were already a multi-time league MVP and multi-time finals MVP, we probably would. Like, to me, the 13-point-a-game season would have been if last year the Chiefs were 8-9 and missed the playoffs.
Sure.
Not, you know what I mean? Not the team that they were. So, okay. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.